Welcome, mortals, to Immortal Issues, where we talk about gods, monsters, myths, and more from around the world. My name's Alec, that's Charlie. Charlie, introduce yourself.
Hello, hello.
And this is part 2 of the Odyssey, otherwise known as Odysseus' terrible, horrible, no good, very bad life. At least according to the first, 30% that we covered last episode?
Correct.
Poor man. The poor man who's already cheated on his wife 7 times? More than that, probably, because, not all the time have to, conceive a kid.
Yeah, true.
So.
At least in his defense, some of it wasn't fully in his will. But we'll get to that.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get to that, because I thought all of this was, slipping away and through his willing fingers, but we'll get to that. So, where we last left off, I believe, Odysseus was still with Circe, the witch.
Correct.
And no one died? Question mark.
Correct. They were able to escape Aea, Circe's island, with no fatalities.
Great.
So
Fantastic.
all in all, after a year of being with her, pretty solid win.
they gained a couple crewmates.
Exactly. Yeah.
Net positive.
Exactly. And now we're off to the lovely and wonderful place known as the underworld.
No.
Yeah. So, are you ready to get back into it?
I have been ready to hear more about Odysseus since I heard he had so many children. Please.
Awesome.
Lead the way.
Well, we have a brief 4 pages of notes to cover this time. As I told you last time was 30% of his journey. This is the rest. So we are going to try and make this as swift as possible, so that way we don't have another hour and a half long episode.
Cool. Whoopsies. Yeah, sounds good. That sounds
stop
good.
with your
Less
questions. No questions.
I wanted to know what color her toenails were. God.
What?
Oh yeah, I had to cut that part out. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's just.
Did you record that solo? Are you okay? I don't remember this.
It was going to be an insert, and I was just going to mess with some of your audio so you could sound like you were responding. And anyway, it's gone. It's
you
history.
Do not have permission to use my voice in AI. I do not consent.
We'll see about that. Anyways,
speaking of not consenting, what? Okay, moving on.
Nothing.
So they find themselves on Aea with Circe, and getting back into it. As you guys remember from last week, we are going to draw some conclusions. We're going to draw some parallels from Epic the Musical and this. That was kind of the inspiration to do this episode. So we're going to continue to do that. But we are also, I want to make very clear, we love that musical, and we think it's fantastic. And we also know that when you make those types of things, you do have to deviate a little bit to make it actually listenable, watchable, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to talk about the real nitty-gritty truth behind what the musical was inspired by. Are you ready, Alec?
I am ready to have my ideas further shattered of Odysseus, because the musical, everything, it's all Eurylochus' fault.
It's all
objectively.
Nothing's Odysseus' fault.
Yeah, he's just a poor little guy.
So we find ourselves back with Circe, like I said, and true to the musical, she does tell him to go visit the prophet in the underworld. Okay. Now, it gets a little bit funky. It does get a little bit funky, in the sense of how they actually get there. So obviously, it's not said in the musical, and at least from what I read, it's not really said in the myth either. So what is said is this is how it happens. Circe basically gives him some food, gives him some wine, gives him some water, says, bye, love you, kisses, and then sends him on his way with a little booty smack. Okay?
Little tap on the ass. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. In front of his men just to establish dominance. Then,
they know.
Yeah, of course. Then They go on a journey across an entire ocean to a harbor on the western edge of the world. Now, I don't know if you remember this from your English language class, but edge actually means the end. So, kind of far. You follow me?
So we're like, yeah, we're on like the that waterfall that you see on most old.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the animated movie Sinbad?
I did. I love Sinbad. So
You
much.
know the part where they get to the edge of the world and there's just like the water's just going off the edge?
Yes.
That's what I imagined.
I
That's
mean,
where we're
that's
at.
it. When talking about the edge of the world, that's always what comes to mind for me because it's sick. So
Yeah. In reality, though, it's probably just an island on the edge of their world, meaning somewhere either outside of Greece or on the very edge of Greece's borders.
don't ruin this for me.
So that is factually probably what's going on. Now, here is where it deviates a little bit. Now, from what I read, there were some summaries of the myth that say that he did actually go into the underworld. There are others, and the ones that were more prevalent and the ones that I read, that say that he actually just made a sacrifice to Hades, and that allowed him to summon a spirit and speak to them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're going to go with that version. Okay. So he's in this harbor. I don't know why, if he could do that, he needed to go to this specific harbor, but we're in this harbor. The harbor doesn't have a name, at least that I could find. But he summons the spirit of the prophet Tiresias. Tiresias? Take
okay.
Take it how you want.
These names are getting worse.
Yeah, and my pronunciation is probably terrible. Someone who actually speaks Greek probably wants to shoot me, but it's fine. Listen, I'm doing my best here. So
It's okay. We'll just
Huh?
We'll just call them Telemachus. It won't.
No,
be
it is not. No. Tiresias. This is going to be his name. So, a little bit of background on Mr. Tiresias. He's a well-known prophet, written about by several scholars in Greek history and mythology. And there was a funny story about him that I thought we would share, just to kind of give you some background on who this kind of person is. So, he was born with the gift of prophecy, and either that, or he was actually born and blinded by Hera. I didn't actually go down the exact myth as to why, but basically Zeus was like, no, that's not really cool. So rather than give him his sight back, Zeus potentially gave him foresight, prophecy instead. The old adage of you're blind and also a prophet. So,
I like to think like he was given orders from some other god of what to do. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
reads it.
So the I always read this kind of stuff and I find it's funny because it's like in every movie you ever watch with someone who has prophecy, what is their main characteristic other than being prophetic?
Blind.
Blind. Always. It's always blind. And
Always
it's probably because this is where they got it. A lot of Greek prophets were also blind. So, moving on. So, back in Tiresias' olden days, he is stumbling around, finding his way, and he found a pair of copulating snakes. Now, Alec, do you know what the word copulating means?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know.
For those who don't, it means to bang. He found a pair of banging snakes, and for whatever reason, he decided, I don't like those snakes, and hit them with a stick. Now, Hera did not like this at all. And as punishment for this action, she turned him into a woman for 7 years.
Hera!
The punishment wasn't that he was a woman for 7 years. The punishment he just turned into a woman. But we'll get to why it was 7 years later. Okay.
We got to get to why that was the punishment. It just Hera, what are you saying about that's? You know what?
Are we canceling Hera right here, right now?
She's clearly not a girl's girl if that was the punishment.
I don't listen, man.
Is Hera a pick-me?
Listen, we are this is from a different time. Things were different. Okay. Don't read too much into it because then we're going to start unraveling a whole different conversation. Okay. We're just going to, that's what happened. Okay.
Oh,
this is informative. I am not putting an opinion out. I am not saying anything about it. I am simply telling you what it says. Am I clear?
I will be writing this down in my book of cancellations for later. Please go on.
Okay. So, during the 7 years that he was a woman, he got married, had children.
Oh.
One of the children that he had was a daughter named Manto, who also possessed the gift of prophecy. And after 7 years, he either sought the advice of Apollo, or Apollo just felt like telling him. And he said if he found more copulating snakes and hurt them in a similar way, Hera would turn him back. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Apollo, but he wasn't the most straightforward, honest god.
Huh. Actually, no, I don't know very much about Apollo. So
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
he and Hermes both were kind of tricksters. So this was kind of like, he was basically saying, hey, if you do this, you'll be set free. But the undertone was like, don't do this. So, so he's one day walking around, he sees the copulating snakes, and now there's two different versions that are split 50-50 on what happened. Now, either he trampled on them instead of hitting them with a stick, so he just walked all over them, or he didn't touch them and walked away. But either way, Hera was pleased by this and turned him back into a man.
So, okay.
Now,
Directions unclear. Snakes not touched, maybe.
correct. There is a completely separate myth written by a scholar later that basically rewrote the story, which I didn't even write down because it confused me just to read it, where basically Hera turned him into a woman, then Zeus turned him into a man, and then someone else turned him into a woman again, and like that went on for like 4 or 5 separate times. And then finally Aphrodite turned him back into a man and then into a mouse. So I just ignored that one. We're not talking about that one. I just thought it was funny.
I feel like we had to come back to that. At some
No,
point.
we're skipping that. Okay. So moving on.
All right.
Okay. That's the background on the prophet. That is his struggles as a far. Has the gift of prophecy, either by being born with it or Zeus gave it to him. But either way, that's how he had it. He lived his life, then he died. And then now we're back with Mr. Odysseus, who is summoning him from the grave. Now,
Right.
Huh?
Summoning him in the form of the mouse. Yes, of course.
Yes, exactly. That is who Odysseus was talking to. Now, I did not find what kind of sacrifice he did, meaning cow, was it a human being? Don't know. But the prophet is a lot more helpful in this version than he is in the musical.
Okay.
Yeah. So he says to Odysseus, if he can stop his men from eating the sacred herd of Helios, the sun god's cows, on Thrinacia, which is an island,
Yeah.
he would get home safely. Otherwise, all of his men would die and his ship would be destroyed.
So he just knew. Like, he knew.
Yeah, so in the musical, if you remember about the windbag,
Yeah.
same exact trope. Hey guys, don't do this. If you do this, we will not get home. And they're like, heard that, Captain, and then proceed to do it anyways. So
It's like I like to think that they that Odysseus tells one of his crewmates, and he's like, all right, tell the rest of the crew, do not do this. And then they're like, gotcha. And then they go down the line like, hey, he told us to do this. And I was like, are you sure? Like, okay, pass it down.
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened, because otherwise I can't fathom why they would be this dumb. But you know, there's a reason this is mythology. And also, do I really underestimate the stupidity of other people that much? Not really.
Absolutely not.
I'm not going to lie to you, Alec. I think you would be the guy.
Look, all right.
I could totally see you opening the windbag and slaughtering a sun cow.
Okay, I wouldn't slaughter the sun cow. However, the bag would have me wrestling with myself every night for nine days, not knowing what's in this silly little bag. Captain, hey, what's in there? Oh, I already told you, it's the storms. Like, that can't hold a storm. Look at how small it is.
Not you two. First the wind god in their bags, and now Alec in their bags. Please.
I specifically am a betrayer of the bag gods.
Oh boy. Okay, moving on. So he tells his crew this. Then the prophet's like, all right, peace, gotta go back to being dead. And then I don't know if he had to sat and make another sacrifice or it just kind of happened, but his dead mother pops up. It's like, her name is Anticlea. Now, in this version, she tells him about all the stuff that's been happening while he was gone.
Okay.
So he knows about the suitors. He knows that they are trying to win his wife over. He also knows that there have been some threats / plans to take over by force and kill his son if necessary.
Okay,
go ahead.
He just knows. He just knows.
Yeah. He's fully in the know. That's probably the reason he was so desperate to get back. Because, on the way back, he stopped with Cersei. He was having a good time. But yada, yada, yada. And now he's like, oh, shoot. Like, if I don't get back soon, my wife is going to be, like, forcefully married to somebody else and my son's going to be dead.
Yeah, I mean, probably regretting that little vacation he took, but hey.
Yep. I think he's probably, knowing the person that he is after the last episode, he's probably going to send a very angry letter to Cersei being like, dang, this was your fault.
Lady, look what you did to my wife. And she's going to be like, I don't care. I got kids to take care of.
Yeah. And nymphs,
And nymphs.
So.
Got to be the grandmother of Rome, potentially.
Oh, boy. So, he knows everything. Okay? Moving on. So, he's talking to his dead mom, right?
Yep.
Finds out about what's going on at home. And then, of course, from there, he's got to go back to home base. Where do you think home base is, Alec?
Cersei's Island?
Cersei's Island, yes.
Hey.
You get nothing, but good guess.
Okay.
So, he heads back to Cersei's Island and gets advice on how to proceed on the next parts of their journey. After talking with her, hearing some stuff, they then leave. And they go around the edge of the land of the sirens. Okay? Now, all of the sailors, just like in the musical, plug their ears with beeswax, except for Odysseus. Odysseus had himself tied to the mast because he wanted to hear the siren songs.
What? Brother.
Now, did he learn anything from this? Not that I could find. Did he do it just because he's crazy? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
So, I mean, maybe he was for information. I'm not really sure. But that's not a story that I've heard.
I can't fathom, like, why. Maybe I can fathom. You know what? Maybe I can. Because he's insane. I got you.
Yep. He's a little bit insane. Moving on, though, right after the Land of the Sirens, he goes between Scylla and Charybdis. Okay?
Okay.
Now, cool fun fact. Do you know the saying, between a rock and a hard place?
I do. I know that saying, yes.
So it is actually based off of an old Greek saying, which is between Scylla and Charybdis. That's how we got that phrase. And the reason for this is because Scylla and Charybdis were two monsters that were basically counterparts to each other, and they lived in two sides of a very narrow channel.
That's actually kind of cool.
And so the way that it worked, and basically the saying back in the day used to mean to kind of, you have to make a tough choice in two risky situations. The same thing that the rock and the hard place means now.
Yeah.
But that's where it was come from. And the way that it worked was that you basically make a choice. Which one do you feel more like fighting? Scylla or Charybdis? And if you tried to steer, like you went over to one side and Charybdis was like, then you would sail away and you put yourself too close to Scylla and then she would get you. And vice versa. So
it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Yep. So now there are two different versions. Scylla was a six-headed monster that apparently used to be a very beautiful woman who was cursed by the gods.
Of course.
Now Charybdis is one of two things. She's either a monster or she is an actual sentient whirlpool. Oh. That is the daughter of Poseidon and a Titan.
Of course. course, it would be. It would be.
So, I'm not exactly sure which one is which, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Man, keep the poor Titans, man. Keep the Greeks, keep the Greek gods away from those. They're being victimized.
Yeah, put into prison, and then now all of a sudden they're forced to have kid monsters with them.
It's happening a lot. This might be an investigation.
That's fine. We'll leave that. We'll leave that for Monsters Inc. or whatever the thing is.
Monsters Inc.
Like Monsters Incorporate, like an Anyways, moving on. Just leave me alone. All right, so we're they pass Scylla and Charybdis, and they only lose 6 men.
Okay.
Scylla killed 6 men. Okay.
I do have a question actually about this one. So
yeah,
was it intentional this time?
It was not said.
That's okay. Gotcha.
But I drew a conclusion. Scylla's a 6-headed monster. He lost 6 men. So I'm kind of just assumptions that as they were sailing past, Scylla just kind of reared her head up and was like, chomp, and just took 6 people with 1 per head. Was like, I'm good, and then ran away.
Like, she waves them goodbye like, thanks for the snack.
Yeah, so yeah, it didn't say if it was intentional or not, but she did get 6. So either way, that was correct.
Cool. Yeah, it's good news for her. Great.
Yeah, great news for her.
Feature
so
dogs.
He then goes to, after this, he goes to Thrinacia. Okay. Now, I want to be clear. Although I did say he went, this is not actually what happened. It's the same thing from the musical, where he was like, guys, I don't know if you remember, but Thrinacia is the island we're supposed to stay away from with the cows and stuff. And they're like, don't care, didn't ask, and proceeded to go there anyways.
And he asked her.
Now, yeah, his crew was like, I'm sorry, who asked?
And he asked her,
and then landed on the island. Yep. And now they didn't even do anything yet. They just stepped on the island, and Helios was like, "This is absolutely unacceptable. How could you do this?" And so Zeus conjured a storm that prevented them from leaving. So they actually get stuck on the island. Okay. While they were there, because they didn't want to kill the cows at first, they ate all the food that Circe gave them. So they're stuck there. They're eating. I don't know how long it was, but they ate all their food. And then Odysseus one day goes away to pray, and his men were like, I don't know. That cow do be looking pretty good, though. And so they hunt one of the cattle. Now Helios is not just perturbed, he is downright pissed. And he goes to Zeus and he says, you need to punish these men for their sacrilege. You know? Zeus is like, gotcha.
It's not even their fault, bro. It's like,
well, it's exactly their fault.
What? Okay, yeah,
they weren't supposed to go to the island in the first place.
Okay, yeah, they weren't supposed to go to the island, but
they were told by 2 people. Circe also warned them, don't go to the island.
But have you ever played telephone?
They had enough food to skip the island.
But it's kind of hard. Like, you ever played?
No, no.
But Charlie,
no. This is the one time the gods get a pass. The gods are in the right here.
But hunger is so heavy.
No, no. It's over.
Well,
I'm glad they got what they got. So, after Helios insisted that Zeus. Wait
Zeus,
a minute.
Zeus.
Okay, wait. Insisted that Zeus punish them. He then caused a shipwreck, and all of the men drown with the exception of Odysseus. Okay. Now, in the myth, this is told after, like, by Odysseus. Basically, the entirety of this story, the Odyssey, is told from Odysseus' perspective to a group of people that he is with to try and save his life. Like, he's trying to basically entertain them. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that's kind of this context here. He tells this part after Scylla and Charybdis. However,
Uh-huh.
Scylla and Charybdis, by this point, it's said in that version of the myth that he's already on a raft by himself. So my thinking is that he went to this island first, his crew got eaten, and then as he's going down this channel, because, they have to go through like a very narrow channel.
Right.
The shipwreck happens, his crew drown, and the only reason he survives is because he is able to hang onto a fig tree. Now, I don't know about you, but there aren't many. I have not seen many fig trees out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah,
Would you say that's factual?
That's true. That's true. Unless Poseidon really liked figs.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Maybe. I don't think so, though. So I'm thinking he was near an island or a channel or something like that. Either way, that's how he survives.
Okay.
Now, he hangs on for the fig tree as long as he possibly can. And then when he can't anymore, he lets go and is now washed up to, Ogygia.
Oh.
Now, Ogygia is the island of Calypso.
Has Calypso ever considered coining her island's name and turning it into a Digimon?
I will ask next time I see her.
Great. Fantastic.
Yes. Now, Calypso is technically a nymph, so not a goddess.
Oh.
But she is immortal.
Oh.
Okay. She is the daughter of the Titan Atlas, so basically the sky.
Whoa.
Okay. And when Calypso finds Odysseus on her island, basically what she says to him is, stay with me and I'll make you immortal as well if you marry me. Now,
Okay.
I didn't get that in the musical. I assumed that Calypso was just going to kind of keep him like a pet.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then once he died of old age, then, get a new one or whatever. But, yeah, she liked Odysseus so much that she was like, stay with me and I'll make you immortal so you can be my husband forever.
I mean, seen Odysseus? I get it.
By this point, he was probably in his late 40s to early 50s and had a long, scraggly beard, very skinny because of his travels.
Okay, well, she's into malnourished dilps. I get it.
Yeah, he, wait, what did you say? What was that last part? Wait, malnourished what?
Malnourished gills. Yes. He looks like a fish. That's what I said.
Okay. Whatever you say, man.
Anyway.
So Odysseus basically said, no. And regardless, she kept him for 7 years there as her lover. Now, we know that Odysseus had several children with her, right? And I don't think that he was being forced into it. But he was being forced to stay there.
I mean, that's like Stockholm syndrome, but I mean, Stockholm wasn't a thing in Greece, so I guess they wouldn't know any better. Maybe it's fine.
It's fine.
It's not fine.
At this point, Athena goes to Zeus and is like, hey, Odysseus needs to be released. And, while I was reading all this research, Athena does a lot for him, like a lot more than in the musical. Okay.
Really?
And it made me wonder, like, was Athena the patron goddess of Ithaca? I didn't look it up, and I probably should have. But I do wonder if that was the case, because I don't know why Athena cares so much about Ithaca and Odysseus and their entire, kingdom. I just don't see any other way why she would care. But regardless, she goes to Zeus and gets him released. Just like in the musical, Hermes comes to Calypso and makes her release him. When Hermes actually came to Calypso, Calypso struggled with it. She was resistant. She didn't want to do it. But finally, she did. She actually told Odysseus how to make a raft that was going to be strong enough to make it home. Gave him food, wine, and water, and let him depart her island.
Okay.
So now, in this part of the story, we quickly kind of take a sidetrack, and we're talking about the suitors. Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, at this point, Telemachus is gone. He's told by Athena at some point that his dad is, alive. and Telemachus needs to go find news on him. Okay, so Telemachus is going several places. He goes to Sparta, which is where he ends up, and this is where he finds out that his dad is actually being trapped on an island by the goddess, nymph, whatever, Calypso. Okay, so Telemachus actually knew that his dad was alive and where he was at this point.
Okay, so like, just as a general like statement,
Yes.
despite how it's portrayed in the musical, the gods are actually far more hands-on with Odysseus's journey. This, like, I mean, obviously in the musical, Poseidon sinks the fleet himself, but it just seems like for the most part, they're just
he's
messing
definitely out to get him, but at least from what I read, he never appears once. Poseidon doesn't. But yes, the rest of the gods are very involved.
Yeah.
So, the Thunderbringer song that you love so much, that actually probably happened. Zeus showed up and was like, done.
Of all the songs from the musical, that's probably the most historically accurate.
I don't think that's factual, actually.
It is not out of character. Right.
Listen, man, listen. From what we know about Zeus from 2 episodes ago, he's not above petty squabbles by any means.
He causes them more often
He
than
loves
not.
them.
He
lives
drama.
for it.
He killed his dad for this.
You know?
Okay. All right, enough about Zeus.
So anyways, we're talking about the suitors. So they realize Telemachus is gone on this journey, and they're angry. I don't know why they're angry, but they don't like that he's gone. Okay. So they develop the plan to ambush his ship and kill him when he gets home. But Penelope actually overhears this and worries for her son's safety. Now, what does Penelope do about that? You might wonder. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. At least nothing that I could find. She just hears it and she's like, "Oh no, Telemachus!"
Oh no.
And then immediately we go to the next part.
It's not even subtle foreshadowing. It's just nothing.
Yep. When Poseidon learns that Odysseus escaped, he wrecks his raft. So this is the one time he actually intervened. So I don't know if he actually showed up or he just kind of sent like a swell. But he, when he finds out that he got away from Calypso, he wrecks his raft. Okay. Now, the sea nymph Ino actually helps him, protects him, and he actually swims ashore on Scary. Scherie. Okay. It's the island of the Phaeacians. Okay.
Okay.
He is at this point naked, exhausted, and what would you do if you were naked and exhausted and just swam up on somewhere?
I would try and find a leaf to cover.
Wow. Are you sure I didn't just find your notes somewhere about this? Incredible. He then hides in a pile of leaves and falls asleep.
Yes, I am Odysseus. I knew it. I wasn't really.
That was quite impressive. Are you reading my notes?
No, it's just, I had this, I scrolled across my For You page and it said, September's Odysseus. And I was like, oh, surely you jest.
Yeah, whatever, man. Moving on. So, he then awakes and he is taken in by a family, okay? Now, I believe this is some sort of royal family to the Phaeacians, maybe the king, maybe the queen, not really sure. But he wakes up. And Athena encourages him not to reveal his identity to them, but to seek their hospitality anyways. Because, he's naked, he's afraid, and he has nothing going for him, okay? The only thing he has is a story. So, he basically says, hey, I know I just got here. You want to know why I'm here? What if I told you in exchange for your hospitality? Because this is back in the days when there was nothing to do, so plays, storytelling, yada 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 was a big deal. So he's like, I have a really riveting tale to tell you, right? And Athena's just kind of behind him, don't say too much. So he tries to be calm. He tries to tell as little as possible, but to still entertain them. But his emotion overcomes him, and he tells everything. All of the events leading up to this moment, he spills the guts on everything. and it eventually leads to him revealing his identity to them as well. They listen, and then they agree to provide him with more treasure than he would have received from the spoils of Troy.
That's
Why?
nice.
They really like the story.
Great. Great. Happy.
They then also deliver him in the night to a hidden harbor in Ithaca. So now he's home.
Oh.
They actually take him home.
Okay. Good. Great.
Right?
We're chilling.
Yep. And he awakens. I guess they did it while he was asleep. I don't know if they like had him sleep on a boat or just picked him up and he's just a really heavy sleeper. But he actually wakes up and thinks that he got tricked and they dropped him off on some distant land as banishment or whatever the case may be. But Athena actually is there and she's like, nope, you're home. You're good. We're all good.
Okay, good.
So yeah. So he's home now. And Athena's with him. She then goes and hides the treasure in a nearby cave and disguises him as an elderly beggar so he can see how things have become on Ithaca. Because, you know, if the king of 20 years missing just shows up, that would be kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? So he wants to see, is he going to be loved? Is he going to be hated? How has his reputation become in the 20 years that he's been gone? Right?
Yeah.
So we are now going to the kind of what he does next. So he's now disguised as an elderly beggar, and he finds his way to the hut of one of his old slaves by the name of Eumaeus. Okay. Eumaeus treats him very well, gives him hospitality, lets him stay, and he speaks incredibly favorably of the king Odysseus. Okay. So he knows this guy's a cool guy.
Yeah, cool guy.
My friend.
Still a slave. Anyways.
Listen, man.
It's different time, of course.
You know,
yeah, different time.
like I said, Odysseus wasn't a good person.
He was just
So
better than average, maybe?
yeah.
Low bar.
For the time, he was better than average.
Yeah, better than
Okay.
the seafloor. Anyways.
So he's talking with this guy. We then flash forward, or not forward, but to a different part of the story with Telemachus. Now, Telemachus, his son, has been in Sparta looking for news of his father, and when he finds it, he sails home, and somehow he either knew or he just was really good, and so he evades the ambush set by the suitors. Okay.
Nice. Sick.
Yep, he survives. He does not, to my knowledge, even fight them. So, no, they fail. F.
Completely.
So, he gets off at the coast of Ithaca, and he meets up with Odysseus, okay? Odysseus reveals himself as his father, and they decide together that the suitors have to be killed. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm in full agreement. Same.
This is one of the few just correct decisions objectively, right? So
100%. Listen, man, if I heard the things I heard from their mouths, it would be so over for them, it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah. It's like
I wouldn't even have the forethought to do what they're doing. I'd rush in guns a-blazing.
yeah.
So, speaking of the forethought, they develop a plan. They want to do this right. They want to win because it's not a musical, and he doesn't just take them all out by himself. There's like 108 of them, so it's not really going to work.
Damn it.
So Telemachus goes home first. He kind of leads the way. He's like, hey, I'm home. How's it going, everybody? Nothing's going on. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Odysseus is definitely not here. Don't even worry about that. Odysseus then goes with the slave, who still doesn't know that it's the king Odysseus. He's just happy to help this old beggar.
Cool guy.
Really, awesome guy.
A great guy.
Goes to the castle, and nobody recognizes him except for his faithful dog Argus, who is the only one who can see through his disguise.
Oh, Argus. I know Argus. I know the name. I know the name of Argus. Continue.
Yes. So when he gets there, his name is ridiculed by the suitors. The leader of which, his name is Antinous. Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know if he himself was ridiculed, because obviously they don't know who he is at this point, or he just overheard them being like, man, that King Odysseus sucks. Can you imagine being Odysseus? That would suck. I'm glad he's dead.
What?
But either way, Odysseus was not very happy about it. And he goes to Penelope and he tests her intentions by saying that he once met Odysseus in Crete.
Okay.
Closely questioned, he adds that he recently been in Thesprotia, and he had learned something there about Odysseus's recent wanderings. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So he's just kind of feeling her out. He's like, does she still love me? Is she going to be like, is she with me? What's going on? Okay.
Yeah.
Odysseus' identity is discovered by a housekeeper called Eurycleia. Okay.
Gotcha.
And she finds out when she finds an old scar as she's washing his feet. Now, Eurycleia tries to tell Penelope about the beggar's identity, but Athena makes sure that Penelope can't hear her. And then Odysseus swears her to secrecy.
Okay. I mean,
okay.
Valid, I guess. Tricky.
He wants a dramatic entrance. He doesn't want Penelope to just see him as is. He wants blood and glory and wonder.
Man, you've been at sea for 20 years. Just cut the wire.
No.
Cut the cord,
dramatic
man.
Entrance. Dramatic entrance. So then, because you know who loves a dramatic entrance even more than Odysseus? The gods of Olympus.
God damn it. Get out of my house, you freeloaders.
So then, the next day, Athena goes up to Penelope and says, hey, I think you should do a competition. I think it's finally time that you take another husband.
Oh.
And so Penelope goes, all right, so whoever can string my husband's old bow and shoot through 12 axe heads will be the person that I marry.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, this time, Odysseus takes part in the competition and is the only man who is able to string the bow and shoot through the axe heads, making him the winner.
Great.
As no sooner did the axe head go through the 12th axe head, or the arrow go through the 12th axe head, did he throw off his rags and immediately with his next arrow kill the leader of the suitors, Antinous.
Damn.
Remember that part in the musical where he's just like at the end of his song, he's just like gurgling. He's like,
yeah.
That's when that happens.
Awesome.
He then goes and starts killing the rest of the suitors, using up all the arrows in his vicinity. And then finally, along with his son, the slave that he was with, and a random cow herder named Philocius, kill the rest of them with swords and spears. All 108 die.
Philocius, who?
He just shows up and he's like, and they give him a sword. He's like, are you with us? And he's like, yes.
Yes. I've missed you.
Finally, I've been training for this day.
He's been sparring with the cows.
And he 5 people kill 108. So, still pretty good.
The Greek hero Philocius, the cow farmer. He bench presses cows.
On each hand.
Helios looks upon him favorably.
He was rewarded a sun cow for this. He wasn't actually, but that would be pretty cool.
Oh, we don't know. It wasn't written, maybe.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Philocius. I actually think he carried the battle.
That's a hero.
I know Odysseus is the hero, but let's be very honest here.
All right, listen, I know very little about Philocius, but from the few things I have heard, he's a pretty great guy.
Listen, man, can you imagine somebody just shows up who was the king 20 years ago, hands you a sword, is like, are you ready to kill 100 people? And you're like, on it, boss.
You got it. Doom guy music starts playing.
His result is just a bunch of cows stampeding through the hallways of the palace.
That's okay. Okay, all right. We'll talk
enough
more
about Philocious. This is about Odysseus.
So you say, but you've introduced a better hero. Okay.
We'll have to do a separate episode on Philocious.
Yes.
A 2-hour-long treaty onto who he is. But for now,
right.
They kill the people. The battle is won, and Telemachus, being very similar to his father, wants to show that this type of behavior will never be allowed in this palace again. His father's home, he's back in charge, and we're done with it.
Okay.
So he then hangs 12 of their household slaves, all women, who were identified as by the woman servant that had identified Odysseus earlier. She told Telemachus that all these servants were having sex with the suitors. So he just hung them outside the palace.
All right. I'm not gonna disagree with that decision, but I am gonna raise a cautious eyebrow.
I don't think. I think Telemachus is not as fragile as we were led to believe in the musical.
That's true. That was a legendary move by Telemachus.
Yes.
Okay.
So after this is all done, I'm assuming after these 12 women have been hanged, Odysseus then reveals his identity to Penelope. I'm sure she already knew by the bloodshed that she just witnessed, but regardless, he goes up to her and he's like, "Hey, baby, I'm home." And she's like, "Not really sure about that. I don't really know who you are." And then he's like, "No, remember I made your bed out of an olive tree. It's still rooted into the ground." And she's like, "Hold me."
And she's like, "Okay."
Yep, that's all she needed to hear. So they make up, they go to bed, whatever that means. And anyways, that's kind of where it ends. There was a side thing after. It said the next day, Odysseus goes to his father Laertes' farm and reveals himself. Following them to the farm are a group of Ithacans led by Euphades? Not Euphrates, Euphades, father of Antinous, who is out for revenge of the murder of the suitors.
Oh.
A battle breaks out, but Zeus and Athena step in to stop it.
Zeus did?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. Now, I don't know if that means that they just killed them outright, or they actually were, "Hey, calm down. But, yeah, they actually both stepped in to stop it.
I mean...
And that's it.
Okay, maybe it's not like the furthest stretch that Zeus would save Odysseus, because, I mean, he gave him, like, so much entertainment for 20 years. 20 long years of watching a dude suffering.
I'm not surprised that Zeus stepped in to save Odysseus. I'm more surprised that he did it without killing somebody. Because the way it's worded, it makes it sound like he just put his hands on both their chests and was like, "Hey, back up. Everyone calm down."
He's the bouncer at a bar, like, "All right, let's all just take a hit off here.
Ain't nobody got to die today."
He shoots Odysseus. It looked like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. So, and yeah, that's it. That's the rest of Odysseus' story. He's now home. He's with his wife. He's with one of his many sons. And yeah.
I gotta assume he didn't really tell about his other kids. I mean, like, why would he, right?
I don't know.
Obviously, probably not written.
He's the only one who made it home, so if his sons were with him, they're all dead now.
Yeah.
But they also went on to do things, so I'm assuming they stayed with their moms.
At least a couple of them went on to do things, so maybe some.
Yeah.
Maybe most.
Yep. And then eventually, as I told you before, him and Penelope make another son, and he's everyone lives happy ever after, except for the 600 people that he took with him. But don't worry about that. Don't even trip.
Listen, all right, okay, but maybe the first time it wasn't exactly their fault for being killed. The majority. But the second time on the island, no, that's their fault. That's on them.
Yeah. The whole thing is kind of Odysseus' fault, though.
Yeah.
Like, the difference between him and the musical and the difference between him and this is he consistently made the wrong choice almost every single time. And the one time he pipes up about doing the right thing, they don't listen to him.
So, okay,
but like,
actually, from that standpoint, they were right not to listen to him because he was wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at what point do you stop being like, okay, Odysseus, you actually know what you're doing? Because he was wrong every single time. And every time he was right, it was because a god helped him.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's a theme in the musical, right? You gamble with your wit, and we die on it. That's the song of Eurylochus. And it's like in the musical, it's like, yeah, he gambles with his wit, but like half the time he ends up being right, man. So at what point do you just say, all right,
in the musical, he's right almost every time.
Yeah.
Even to the degree with Polyphemus, the Cyclops, he's still right because he lets him live. Right? Like, to a degree.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously morality-wise, not logically-wise. But in this, he's just... I think the main difference from what I can tell is that in the musical, he's very honor-bound and wants to do everything for the good of the good itself, if that makes sense. The good of honor, the good of doing the right thing.
Yeah, so the big talking point of the musical is that Polites, with his open arms thing, kind of poisoned Odysseus's journey by trying not to kill anyone. Because obviously in Troy, he's killing everyone, killing babies.
Yep.
But after Polites sings that song, then he gets a little bit softer. He wants to go open arms into everything. But
yeah,
in this,
and
just
that,
dumb.
Yeah, and I think in this one, he's more fallible. He makes a lot more mistakes just because, like, it's a mistake that you or I or like an average human being would make.
Yeah.
Whereas in the musical, he knows everything. He's the hero. He does everything the right way. And the only mistake he made was with Polyphemus. And even that arguably wasn't a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, like, morally,
it just had a bad outcome.
Morally, in the musical, it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? You spared, widely talked about, he's a child. You spared a child. Great. Fantastic. You killed the rest of your crew because Poseidon found out, and obviously not great. But, I mean, in this, he spares Polyphemus because, yay.
He spares Polyphemus because he wants to run away, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the story, you can't really, they don't have a good way to kill him, right? So,
yeah.
Unless someone wants to crawl in his mouth and just kind of, Ant-Man it, but no one's not brave.
Ant-Man.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
All right. So that's.
Any other questions? Any comments? Any concerns? Actually, leave the concerns. I don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot.
What are the questions in the comments?
There's a lot of concerns, but I mean, if we're not doing that, I'm not really sure what else I have for you.
Awesome.
Honestly, I mean, I like Odysseus in the musical a lot because he's the main character. He's supposed to be the guy. Right, you're the guy you cheer for, like, oh, Greek tragedy, gosh darn it, by golly, this poor man. But I feel like I like this one a little bit more, if only because he's just consistently wrong in whatever he's doing, and that makes me feel like, okay, you kind of deserve this, man. Like, no shade, but you're honestly a bit of an idiot for that one, and then that just keeps repeating. It just keeps happening. I keep saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely interesting, and I not gonna lie, I was surprised at how unhero like he was most of the time. But he made it home, and he eventually basically gave up everything to do it. So
yeah, by all accounts, they ended up in the same place. Just one is definitely happier.
Yeah, arguably to say which one.
See, I said that, but in my argument, in my head, I'm saying the Odysseus in the original poem is happier.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because his actions do not hang over him like whatsoever. It seems like he's just like, darn, there goes the rest of my crew. Anyways, hey guys, you want to hear about this?
He's the Odysseus. This Odysseus from the poem is the one from that one part of the Ruthlessness song where he's like, all I gotta do is open that bag.
Yeah. That's
And
just
Poseidon's
him for
like,
the
"What?"
rest of. That's just him for the whole play. Him for the whole thing. It's just all I gotta do is open this bag.
Yeah, that's his entire like thought process going through the entire poem.
It's not even a character arc. It's just a straight line.
Yep, yep. But
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that's Odysseus. I had a lot of fun with this. I thought it was really cool. I like Odysseus a lot.
Yeah. That's.
I like the stories a lot. And I think, it was, I would say from even reading this, I like the play even more because reading these and seeing, like, after hearing all of the different derivatives from where these came from, it's like, oh, even though that didn't happen, I see where they got it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand where he got that from. Like, it was the storm that kept them on the island with the sun cows being put there by Zeus. Well, like in the song when he's like, we have to get away from the island, the storms get summoned and that's how he knows it's too late. And then Zeus shows up. Well, obviously that's not exactly how it happened, but you can, by reading the myth, see how Jorge, the author, put that together.
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you mean.
It gives it more validity. It's really cool.
It's like the musical references the actual poem enough to where it all feels connected despite some of the actions not happening. Like they didn't go to the land of the giants in the musical, but
yeah,
Aeolus references it until Poseidon stops them. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It all adds to it.
The myth is really cool. I think Jorge did a bang up job. 10 out of 10. Mad respect. I think overall, everything about the Odyssey is super cool.
Yeah.
Big fan.
And obviously this isn't a promise of what next episode will be because that's not not my decision. I'm not the game master here. But at some point I do look forward to learning about the Iliad because I've heard things about the Troy boys.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I saw, like I told you, I learned a little bit about the Iliad, so I think it would be interesting. And even more so than that, I also learned some stuff about Jason and the Argonauts, so I think that would be a cool one to do at some point.
Yeah.
But I think we'll kind of, at least for the next couple ones, we'll do some more interesting stuff, either gods or monsters or something.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of go back to those, because I think maybe the heroes and the heroes' journeys are maybe not, everybody's favorite, but I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, this is definitely very cool. All right.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the copulating snakes.
Man, I gotta, poor prophet, dude. I like the other version. I just like where he just keeps getting turned into crap. Like, you're a snake. No, you're a mouse. Just hated that guy, man. All right.
Okay.
All right. Let's wrap this up. That was the Odyssey in its entirety. Definitely very interesting. The Iliad at some point in later time. But yeah, very enjoyable, very cool. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you for all the support we've been getting on the podcast from the TikTok account and from the YouTube account and every upload, everything. It means a lot to us. Really, it really does.
Yes. And we are going to do a better job of uploading to the TikTok so that way you guys get more content other than once a week.
Yes. Little clips, little funny things. All right.
Yes. All right, y'all. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.